she ridiculed. Ah, look at you acting like a detective over a few questionable messages. When I discovered her using a second Snapchat account, I replied, I'm not pretending, but you are. She didn't find it amusing when I handed her a flash drive and said, Your game is finished. Have fun explaining this to HR tomorrow. I follow a straightforward principle. Trust isn't an emotion. It's a confirmation of consistent actions. For the first 2 years of our relationship, my girlfriend Vanessa's behavior was reliable. We created a good life together, lived in my house, shared aspirations, and respected one another. Then, about 6 months ago, things changed. It began with small irregularities. Her phone, once casually left on the counter, was now always in her hand or placed face down. She started staying late at work, citing a high-stakes project run by a senior VP named Marcus Thorne. Her language shifted, filled with corporate jargon and inside jokes I wasn't part of. These were minor changes, but my internal warning system noticed them. I don't believe in paranoia. I believe in recognizing patterns. The clue that broke the case open was a moment of carelessness on her part. We were watching a movie on the living room TV linked to my iPad. A notification slid down from the top of the screen. It wasn't a text or an email. It was a Snapchat notification, but the username wasn't her usual public one. It was something mysterious, Viper Nights 22. The message preview was brief but impactful. Can't wait for our budget meeting tomorrow. I didn't react. Showing my hand would have been a mistake. I simply stored the username in my mind. The operation shifted from passive watching to active investigation. Later that night, I conducted a preliminary search. The Viper Nights 22 account was, as anticipated, tightly secured, private, but she made another rookie mistake. The profile picture, though small, was clearly her, posing in a way far more provocative than anything on her public accounts. This wasn't a friendly account. It was a burner, a hidden communication line. The major breach occurred 2 days later. She had been using the same iPad to watch something and left it on the couch. When I picked it up, there it was. She was still logged into Snapchat, not her public account, but as Viper Nights 22. It was a shocking failure in operational security. I didn't feel anger or sadness. I felt the cool clarity of a strategist who had just received the enemy's entire battle plan. I spent the next hour scrolling through a torrent of incriminating evidence. The recipient of all the winky-face budget meeting messages was predictably Marcus Thorne. His username was equally clever, MT Score Bossman. The messages were damaging. It wasn't just flirting. They were sharing explicit photos, planning trysts during work hours, sometimes in hotel rooms booked on the company credit card under the pretense of client meetings. They were openly mocking their colleagues in the chat logs. Vanessa called her closest work friend a clueless shrew, while Marcus referred to his wife as the warden. But the worst part, which escalated this from a simple affair to a matter of corporate misconduct, was that they were sharing sensitive information. He was feeding her details about upcoming layoffs, informing her of which employees were going to be let go so she could position herself to take on their responsibilities. It was a blatant abuse of power and a serious breach of company policy. I realized then that just breaking up wasn't enough. That would be like letting a hostile agent walk away after they've jeopardized your entire network. A more thorough solution was needed. I took out my phone and began recording the iPad screen. I captured everything. Every message, every photo, every video. It was all saved, backed up, and secured. I decided to conduct one final test to confirm her psychological profile. I wanted to see if there was any chance of remorse, any hint of the person I thought she was. The next evening, I confronted her. I didn't present the damning evidence. I just tossed her a simple question. Hey, I said calmly. I noticed a strange notification on the iPad the other day. Something about a Viper Nights 22 Snapchat. Do you have a second account? The response was immediate and exactly as I expected. She didn't appear guilty. She looked offended. She burst into laughter, a sound filled with condescension. Ah, look at you acting like a detective over a few questionable messages, she ridiculed, her voice dripping with disdain. Are you going through my stuff now? That's so cute and a bit pathetic. I stared at her, my expression unreadable. Her arrogance was astonishing. She felt invincible. Test complete. The data was conclusive. I'm not playing, Vanessa, I said, my tone calm and icy. But you are. I turned and walked away. She called after me, still laughing, but I didn't turn back. The reconnaissance phase was complete. It was time to plan the next move. Update 1. The following week was an exercise in careful preparation. Vanessa, thinking she had successfully shamed me into silence, grew more brazen. Her late-night budget meetings became more frequent. She was careless, arrogant, and entirely oblivious to how she was stepping deeper into a trap of her own making. My first step was to consult my lawyer, not for a breakup, but for a strategic evaluation. I laid out the evidence I had gathered: chat logs, photos, proof of their misuse of company funds, and sharing confidential information. I explained that I wanted to end the relationship, but also wanted to ensure that Vanessa and Marcus faced the full consequences of their actions. My lawyer was impressed with the thoroughness of the evidence. "This is more than just an affair," he said. "This is a serious breach of corporate ethics and possibly a data security risk. You have significant leverage, but we need to use it wisely. If you just release this out of anger, they could sue you for invasion of privacy. We need to frame this appropriately." His advice was brilliant. I wasn't to present myself as the hurt boyfriend. I needed to be an anonymous, concerned third party. The goal was not to scream infidelity, but to report gross misconduct and corporate wrongdoing. With that legal framework established, I began assembling the materials for the operation. I bought a new encrypted flash drive. On it, I created a meticulously organized set of folders. Folder 1, Inappropriate Relationship. This contained a PDF document outlining a clear timeline of their affair, cross-referencing her late work excuses with time-stamped Snapchat messages and hotel receipts I found in her car's glove compartment. It also had a subfolder with the most explicit photos and videos. Folder 2, Misuse of Company Assets. This folder included copies of hotel bills booked on the corporate card with the dates highlighted, along with chat logs where they discussed using company funds for personal dinners and gifts. Folder 3, Breach of Confidentiality. This was the most crucial folder, containing screenshots of Marcus sharing sensitive information about layoffs, client contracts, and internal strategy. I highlighted every single message that violated his fiduciary duty to the company. Folder 4, Code of Conduct Violations. This folder included a downloaded copy of their company's official code of conduct, which I found online, highlighting the specific sections they violated regarding fraternization between managers and subordinates, misuse of corporate funds, and handling confidential information. The entire flash drive was a self-contained, undeniable indictment of their actions. It was cold, factual, and devastating. While I was constructing this digital weapon, I was also living with the enemy. It was a surreal experience. I maintained politeness, distance, and complete non-confrontation. Vanessa misread my silence as submission. She would prance around the house talking on the phone with Marcus right in front of me, using coded language she thought was clever. "Yes, the Q4 projections are looking very, very promising," she'd say, winking at her phone. The arrogance was shocking. She believed she was a mastermind. In reality, she was just a reckless amateur making my job easier every day. The final piece of the puzzle was the delivery system. My lawyer advised against a solely digital approach, which could be dismissed or deleted. We needed to create a physical impact. So, I prepared 2 identical packages. Each held a flash drive and a printed 1-page executive summary outlining the contents and highlighting the most severe violations. The summary was written in dry corporate language and signed simply, "A concerned employee." I had 2 targets for these packages: the head of human resources at their company and Marcus Thorne's wife. I found her name and address through a simple public record search. She deserved to know the truth, unadulterated and undeniable. My operation was no longer just about a single relationship. It was about dismantling an entire corrupt system. The packages were sealed, stamped, and ready. All that was left was to choose the moment of execution. Update 2. The moment I selected was a Thursday evening. Vanessa came home from work radiating smug satisfaction. She had been promoted, of course, with Marcus's approval. She was excitedly sharing her new title and responsibilities, expecting me to play the supportive boyfriend. She was celebrating what she thought was a monumental victory, unaware it was her last supper. I let her finish her monologue, allowing her to revel in the glory of a success she achieved through deceit. Then, I stood up and walked over to my desk. I picked up a 3rd flash drive, a decoy I had prepared for this exact moment. I returned to her, my expression entirely calm, and held out the flash drive. She looked at it, puzzled. "What's this?" she asked. "This is the end of the game," I replied, my voice low and steady. "I suggest you take a look at what's on here. It's a thorough summary of your activities over the past 6 months. Her face went through a quick succession of emotions: confusion, irritation, then a dawning flicker of fear. What are you talking about? My activities. Your budget meetings, I replied. Your misuse of company funds, your relationship with Marcus Thorne, your second Snapchat account. All the color drained from her face as panic filled her eyes. You know everything. I said, I'm not playing detective, Vanessa. I'm the guy who found the open playbook, read every page, and decided to end the game. I dropped the flash drive on the coffee table in front of her. Your game is over, I stated, delivering the line I had rehearsed for weeks. Enjoy explaining this to HR tomorrow. She lunged for the flash drive, her hands shaking. You can't do this. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? I replied. That flash drive is a copy. The originals were sent today via courier. One to your head of HR, marked urgent and confidential. The other to Catherine Thorne, Marcus's wife. I imagine they're having a very interesting evening. The sound she made was a mix between a gasp and a sob. The reality of what I had done finally hit her. This wasn't a relationship argument. It was a tactical strike aimed at every aspect of the life she built on lies. Her career, her affair, her reputation. Everything was about to be destroyed. I've packed your essential belongings into your suitcases, I continued, my voice cold and devoid of sympathy. They are by the front door. A car will arrive in 15 minutes to take you to a hotel for the night. You have until noon on Saturday, 48 hours, to arrange for the professional removal of all your remaining property from my house. If it isn't gone by then, it will be considered abandoned and disposed of at your expense. We are finished here. She stared at me, her face a mask of utter devastation and disbelief. The smug, condescending woman who had called me pathetic was gone, replaced by a terrified, broken individual who had been so busy playing a game that she never realized she was losing. I felt nothing. No pity, no remorse, just the quiet, clean satisfaction of a mission accomplished. I turned and walked into my bedroom, closing and locking the door behind me, leaving her alone with the crushing weight of her consequences. Final update. It has been 4 months since Operation Meltdown. My life has been cleansed of Vanessa's toxic presence. The drastic measure I chose was devastatingly effective, and the fallout was more complete than I could have planned. The day after I handed her the flash drive, chaos erupted at her company. The head of HR, upon receiving the package, immediately escalated the issue to the company's legal counsel. The evidence was so overwhelming and meticulously organized that there was no room for denial. Marcus Thorne was called into a meeting that morning and fired on the spot for gross misconduct, breach of confidentiality, and misuse of company assets. He was escorted out of the building before lunchtime. Vanessa arrived at work to find her access card deactivated. HR and a security guard met her at the door, informing her that she was being placed on indefinite administrative leave pending an investigation. The investigation took less than a week, and she was also fired for cause due to her role in the affair and complicity in the Code of Conduct violations. The second package delivered to Catherine Thorne had an equally explosive effect. Armed with undeniable proof of her husband's long-term affair and his use of family and company funds to support it, she filed for divorce immediately. I've heard the proceedings were brutal. Marcus lost his job, reputation, marriage, and a significant portion of his wealth. He was utterly ruined. Vanessa's fate was just as bleak. She was not only unemployed, but also effectively unemployable in her field. The story of the scandal, while not publicized, spread like wildfire through corporate circles. She became radioactive. The affair with Marcus was over, of course. He blamed her for the entire situation, for being careless and getting them caught. She had to move back in with her parents, a disgraced, jobless woman with no prospects. Her attempts to launch a smear campaign against me were feeble and went nowhere. I had shared with a few key friends the sanitized professional version that I discovered she was involved in an inappropriate relationship that compromised her company, and I ended things. No one believed her portrayal of me as a vindictive psycho. The evidence of her own character was too strong. I didn't just break up with a cheating girlfriend. I dismantled a corrupt system she was exploiting. I took her arrogance and recklessness and turned them against her. She mocked me for acting like a detective, but in the end, her entire life unraveled due to a simple, well-organized presentation of facts. She thought she was a master player in a complex game, but she was just a careless amateur who left her playbook open for her opponent to read. My life now is tranquil, orderly, and logical. I sold the house to erase the bad memories and bought a new place that is entirely my own. The revenge wasn't about emotion. It was about strategy. It was about identifying a threat and neutralizing it in the most efficient and permanent manner possible. She sneered at me and called me pathetic, but the world she built is now a wasteland, and I am at peace. The mission was a complete success.